All right. Pack it up, pack it in, let us begin. Coming to you live today from the beautiful Bill Austin Radio Studios here, downtown Phoenix, Arizona. It's the site for the best podcast there is, really. I'm AJ Gonzalez, joined today by Sebastian Fryer. He's ready to go to the Orioles game tonight. Got Trevor Cox as well, and nearly Coca-Cola. I mean, best drink out there. Gentlemen, really sums it all up. Gentlemen, how are you doing on this majestic Monday?
I'm having a pretty good Monday. I like to call it Math Monday because that's the only class I have on Mondays. So, having a good Math Monday so far.
Hey, same boat today, Trevor. I'm having a majestic Monday. Weather's really starting to heat up here as well. So, energy a little bit up. We're about a month away from getting out of here as well as we end the semester, man. So, we got to take advantage of these in-person podcasts because it's going to be online for a while after that.
For sure.
All right. So, inventory for this Monday edition of 3 for 60. We're going to get to March Madness. Houston and Florida, that's your final. That's coming up in about 2 hours, so that'll be the first order of business that we do today. We will break that down. Pick 26 in this NFL draft. That's where we are in our rankings, really, in our rebuilds for this NFL draft. I believe, if I'm not mistaken here, I got to look this one up. I believe it's at the LA Rams.
I want to say, yep, it's the Rams.
So it's the LA Rams, so we will do that rebuild today. They've already, given us the pieces to work with through free agency, so we'll just have to be draft experts and help them out there. We'll do that. Alex Ovechkin, one of the biggest records in NHL history, goes down. He breaks Wayne Gretzky's all-time scoring record. I'm sure we'll have thoughts there. And then from there, we'll just be open forum, open takes. Champions League starts tomorrow. And the Masters, I have plenty to say on that. It's my favorite week in April, really favorite weekend of the sports calendar for about, February to September-ish, right around there. So this is the best week there is. So I'm very excited for it. Let's dive right in, guys. March Madness. You guys want to start out with the Auburn game? Let's start out with Auburn, Florida. Give me your reaction to that one as quick as possible here.
Walter Clayton Jr. is just the absolute man, hitting shots down the stretch whenever they needed, wherever they needed, contested, step back. It didn't matter. That guy's getting it done.
Well, it was really a tale of two halves, right? Because after the first half, we were all pretty much saying, all right, it looks like the gas is running out for Florida. The magic may be out. Auburn looks to have the upper hand in this matchup. And then Florida just comes out firing and really dominated that whole second half. Walter Clayton Jr., you just mentioned him, Trevor. That's the player of the tournament, in my opinion, 100%. So far. This dude, when you need him the most, he comes up clutch with really a miracle shot. It really doesn't matter.
Seems like it, yeah.
He'll create it as well. He'll get his teammates open. And I think you always see with Walter Clayton Jr., he brings the ball up every time. And there's always two bodies right on him. So he has to move the ball right away. They always find the right guy. I think Florida's big men also do a good job playing some defense. Janai Broome really had his worst game of the tournament. It's not even close as well. Yeah. They're really able to neutralize him as well. And really Auburn, I think they really feed off energy. They always have a big-time crowd following them everywhere in March Madness. But throughout the whole second half, I really never saw a play that Auburn made that really got the correct crowd out of their seats and really start cheering on them. Never really saw the Broome swagger, doing a little thumbs down celebration he likes to do. Just never truly saw that energy from Auburn in that second half. So shout out to Florida. They neutralized them completely. And I will say confidently, I think the better team won that between those two.
I definitely agree with that.
Great. That was a great game that started out. Clayton's absolute superstar there, and he's going to the NBA for sure. I'm excited to see where he lands. I think that's more the question now. Auburn gave a great showing, too. I'm not going to sit here and hate on Janai Broome because I feel like a lot of people are already doing that, saying he's just a good college player and that's going to be it. But I thought he showed a lot of fortitude and fight for this tournament. And Todd Pettiford's got a big future ahead of him. I think he's going to be very 100%. Good for Auburn.
I did see that he's going back, though.
Yes. Yeah, he's going back to Auburn. So.
Freshman. They have a couple good pieces. I like Kelly, the kid, as well. He could definitely shoot that three. They have a couple really good pieces. Chad Baker-Mazara, shout out to him. I've got a little bit too hard on him throughout our previous podcast, but honestly, he was the best player from the Auburn side.
Down the stretch.
He was hitting three after three, so shout out to him. He came out to play. But, maybe it's time to hang it out for him. That he's approaching 30, so it might be time to call it quits.
He's pushing 30, man. He's got to call it quits.
All right, so that's the Florida and Auburn recap. Let's head over to one of the biggest collapses that I think I have ever seen outside of, the Atlanta Falcons back in the day. Houston somehow, some way, finds a way to beat the Duke Blue Devils and end Cooper Flagg's historic freshman season. Guys, what an upset that was. Total insanity. And everyone was wondering when the madness was going to come. This game was the definition of madness.
100%, yeah. I just remember Cooper Flagg hit that big three, I believe, to put the lead up to 11 with 3 minutes left. And I was watching the game with Sebastian. I look at him, I go, dagger, that's it. And he was like, yeah, that's probably it. And Houston just somehow managed to get a couple steals, couple turnovers, couple calls to go their way. And oh my goodness, Emmanuel Sharp down the stretch, hitting those big free throws. What a game. What an effort from Houston. really happy for Kelvin Sampson. That guy deserves to be back in the national championship game. I hope he can pull it out this time.
I mean, just unbelievable, right? We did look at each other in the restaurant we were at when Cooper Flag drilled that three. That was the only field goal Duke made in the last 10 minutes of the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I mean, just credit Houston, right? Because LJ Cryer really single-handedly kept them in that game, just fighting from really a shouting's distance really the whole time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the last 10 minutes came in, and Houston's defense was the big key, because I don't think Houston offensively, is an elite team as well, compared to Duke, compared to Florida. But that defense really stood its way, and they really made Duke struggle. No one could get going. Proctor, he's a guy that normally comes through for them. They really neutralized him. Cooper Flag, not even to speak about him. We really, outside of that three, we
missed the
thought it was
game-winning shot, too.
Exactly. So, outside of that three, we thought it was the dagger. Really didn't do much those last 10 minutes of the game. And then Houston making big-time shots. Really, they looked out of it, and they basically had to have a perfect last minute of the game to have a chance to do it. They make it a big three by Sharp. They get the steal, miss three, but then be able to put the putback dunk. That was an amazing play as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then just make defensive stand after defensive stand, grab the rebounds, don't give Duke second time opportunities as well. They just had a perfect last 10 minutes of the game, in my opinion, and that's what championship basketball is all about. I'm really looking forward to see how they'll match up here coming up, in about 2 hours, as AJ mentioned, against Florida. Yeah. But really just that mentality from Houston. I don't think they're the best team available, even remaining. A lot of people probably would have ranked them as the worst team remaining out of those Final Four. But, that's a team collective effort. They have probably the best coach in those Final Four teams in Mr. Sampson.
I'd say
great game plan, great adjustments. And Houston, they're just gritty, man. They're a true bunch. I can see that's a team that's really together. They understand each other. The chemistry's up there. The coaching's up there. So tonight, Florida's going to really have to play complete 40 minutes of basketball if they want to beat Houston.
I was astonished, okay? I'll be honest with you. When the lead got up big for Duke in that game, I turned the TV off. I went to go watch The Apprentice on Amazon Prime. I'm a big business guy, entrepreneurship. Those are like my core values, so I wanted to watch that. Then when I looked on the Real app, there was about 2 minutes left. And I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? I had to turn that off, go back to the game, and somehow I was able to watch like the last minute and 20 seconds of that chaotic collapse. That was the Duke Blue Devils. That was just atrocious in every aspect. I have to believe that the third-year coach, I'm blanking on his name now, of course, right when I need it the most.
John Shire.
That sounds perfectly right. I have to believe that if Coach K were on that bench, there's no way that collapse happens. That's the first thing. That was immediately the first thing that I thought of. But the second thing was, this Proctor, what was his deal? What was that?
He was bad.
This is going to go down at least in college basketball history, as one of the biggest what ifs, what we could have gotten here tonight with this final with Florida and Duke and Cooper Flag against Florida. That would have been an insane final. But I still think you're going to get a good one. But it's just crazy. I mean, out of the collapses I can think of off the top of my head, I would say that the Falcons collapse. The thing that was great about this is the last 2 minutes, the whole thing collapsed. It happened so fast. And if you really were thinking about it, you would have missed it. Really a great ending there. So the collapse, that's probably number one in terms of quick collapse. But Falcons 2016, 0-4 Yankees up 3-0, and Red Sox somehow find a way to come back, win that series. There's a lot of great collapses in the history of sports, and I'm sure you can, if you do some research, you can really dive into them. But in my lifetime, I don't think I have seen a collapse like that. I mean, I remember the Vikings-Colts game from a few years ago when the Colts were up big. I think it was a Saturday afternoon game. Yep, 33-0. Vikings come all the way back, but the circumstances were way less. It was a regular season game. Really, and with importance and everything in between, this is the second biggest collapse I have ever seen, honestly.
Yeah.
So
I think an underrated aspect as well, going into this game is Duke looked pretty, vulnerable to collapses. We saw it in the ACC tournament against UNC. Credit Flag did not play that game, but UNC had came back roaring in that second half. And if it wasn't for a couple late missed free throws, UNC probably eliminates Duke in the ACC tournament. So, Duke's really been able to roll throughout this whole tournament. And, it's a difference between teams like Duke, between Houston, who's also been prepared to play in those tight situations. They did it against Purdue. They did it against Gonzaga to close games out. Florida's done it really all tournament long as well. Duke really hasn't. So I think that's the thing with Duke. It's a tight game, a team that simply would not go away. Duke struggles to close games out. I feel like that's kind of the key note that I saw later on in the season. And it really comes back to bite them in March Madness when these other teams are more experienced. They're not really afraid of the big-time moment, and they just understand each other and what they expect from each other to close out those big-time situations. And simply Duke and the best player in the country came up short in that aspect.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is my big question about this Duke team now is, does Cooper Flag go or does he stay? I would say you go. I would say you go. Yep.
No,
So-
he's not.
there's
there's-
zero chance.
So I think he's gone, and Duke will rebuild. I think they'll be fine.
They'll
So,
be fine. Yeah, it's Duke.
all right, national championship thoughts tonight, boys. What do we think?
I mean, man, I'm going to take Houston after the outing. I doubted them. Like Sebastian said, I probably thought they were the worst team in the Final Four. Feels like people have been doubting them all year, really, even though how phenomenally they played ever since they started, 3-3 or something like that. They've just been phenomenal. Only one loss since December 1st was a stat I saw. This has been one of the best teams in the country. There's a reason they're a 1 seed. There's a reason they're in the national championship game. I don't think they should go underrated. Walter Clayton Jr. has been a great story, but I really think Houston has the guard defenders to maybe hold them to not a lackluster game, but maybe lackluster by Clayton standards this tournament, maybe only 15 or 20 points. I think Houston will do it. I think LJ Cryer will probably have 20 plus, and yeah.
Look, Houston, all they do is win. That's the big thing I took from Houston. A lot of people thought they were frauds going into this tournament. Them and Auburn, they kind of held them to that standard. That Florida and Duke are really a step above in terms of the number 1 seeds. But for myself, I'm from Houston, 1 loss in the Big 12. It was in overtime against a great Texas Tech team. All this team does is simply win, no matter how it looks, no matter how it happens, but they are just simply winners. And that's why they're in this part of the tournament very deep into the national championship. Looking at the other side of Florida, they've been wagons all year. I mean, they beat Auburn twice, which Auburn's probably, been the best team in the country all year long. So Walter Clayton Jr., I mean, he's just clutch. And Florida's just simply clutch. When the game comes down to the wire, it's going to be interesting. And I think the game's going to come down to the wire. Who's going to win it, right? Because Florida's done it all tournament long, same with Houston.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take Florida. I just think there's way too much firepower. And I think the difference between this matchup versus Duke and getting an opponent like Florida is we've seen from Florida, they close games out. And I think Florida is going to be leading most of the way. Houston's a good team, don't get me wrong. I think LJ Crowder's a phenomenal player. But I just think Florida's going to be a little bit too much, and I think Florida's team, they've proven this to also stick together throughout difficult times in the game. We saw Florida. I mean, against Auburn, it's tough to come back against a team like Auburn who likes to make a lot of runs and respond to your runs. They simply shut down Auburn the whole second half, and I think Florida are going to do a great job to manage through the emotions tonight. Houston's going to have their moments, but I think Florida's always going to have a response to that, and especially down in the clutch. I think Florida's going to be up, and they're going to just kind of find a way to get that final dagger shot within the last 2 minutes of the game, probably by Walter Clayton Jr., because that's all he does. So, just like my initial pick going into March Madness, I'm going to stick with it, and I think the Florida Gators are going to get the job done tonight.
I think no matter what, we're going to have a great game tonight.
That's what my hope is.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Those are your March Madness predictions. Really, the final there.
Who do you got?
Yeah, who are you taking, Unc?
I'll go with Florida. I think they were the best team all along. I think that, Duke, I think that was all about Duke with the Houston. I mean, I'll give Houston credit. Their defense is good, but I think Florida's just going to be too much to overcome, and I think Houston's going to be too tired. They're going to be too exhausted from that ending with Duke. That's what I think should happen.
I wouldn't expect that. But
They're going to be ready to go. I'm excited for it.
I don't know. If anyone would have his guys ready to go, it's Kelvin Sampson.
It's a lot of adrenaline, though, that you really have to process. 2-day turnaround. It's going to be awesome, though. I can't wait. There's so many different storylines. Either Sampson wins the national championship and really
his first.
It could
Houston's first.
I mean, that could be the biggest, honestly, number 1 seed, as close of a Cinderella you can get, honestly, Houston winning, in my opinion, because they're
not really a blue blood.
Everybody penciled Duke into the national championship, and I feel like even us three kind of penciled Duke into the national championship. So, credit to Florida. That's our Cinderella nowadays with the NIL version of college basketball. Then that's what we get, and I think Houston winning would also be kind of awesome. But I do have money on Florida, so hopefully Florida wins, and I do believe they will.
I think also something to point out, a cool storyline, LJ Cryer would be the first player to win a national championship at 2 different schools if Houston wins tonight.
Yeah, NIL world.
Interesting.
So,
okay, college basketball. That's where the state of the world is there. Well, trust me, we'll have plenty of reaction Wednesday on bottom of the 6th, so be sure to stay tuned for that. With that being said, gentlemen, it's time for our NFL rebuild of the day. The Los Angeles Rams, the new look LA Rams, losing Cooper Kupp, adding Devontae Adams. Very busy free agency period for the LA Rams. Matthew Stafford gets a little bit of a contract, extension, and more money bonus wise. So this Rams team looks to be in the driver's seat again. Again, last year, 1 play away from maybe defeating the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So lots to look forward to here. I'll turn it over to the experts here to do this rebuild. This is pick number 25? 26. So this will be our 26th rebuild. Amazing how far we've come. So LA Rams, Trevor, take it away.
All right. Honestly, when I look at this Rams team, I see a lot of young talent, but also a lot of old talent. And what they've been doing well recently, and the reason they've been succeeding post the Super Bowl era, in my opinion, is they've been drafting so well. Obviously, a guy like Puka Nakua, but even guys like Steve Avila has been a serviceable guard for them. Alaric Jackson's been pretty solid for them at left tackle. Kevin Dotson, I believe they signed him. He's been a pretty solid right guard. Obviously, Rob Havenstein's still there on the right side. But this offense has very little holes. I might like a new center, maybe day two, if you like a prospect enough. But I think mainly you just got to try to keep building this young defense. You got to keep throwing assets into that front seven, maybe the secondary too. I'm going BPA on defense at 26, whether it's a guy like Nick Emenwari, whether it's an edge rusher, maybe Michael Williams, maybe if Mike Green falls that far, something like that. I'm just trying to fortify this defense in any way I can at 26, maybe pick up a center day two, and maybe draft a receiver as well. I'd say day two.
Well, obviously the Rams have gone through and already made plenty of splashes throughout free agency. Devontae Adams being the biggest one, pairing him alongside Puka Nakua. Cooper Kupp is no longer there. He's up in the Northwest in Seattle. So what do you do here? What I really noticed so far, Tyler Higbee, Colby Parkinson, the only two tight ends on the roster. I think a guy like Colson Loveland makes a lot of sense. Everybody penciled Blake Corum last year's draft to the Chargers. He ends up going to the Rams. Could the same thing happen to Loveland? I think a tight end could be a different dimension that this Rams offense could unlock. And I think Loveland would probably be there for them to take and be the third tight end right there and complete that tight end room. And, Higbee, he's an older guy, also came off a major injury last year. And obviously Colby Parkinson is Colby Parkinson, just a depth piece. So I think a starting tight end caliber player would be awesome and a new dimension for that offense. We got Kyron Williams. I think they're going to give Blake Corum another go at it. So those are probably going to be your two running backs. You have Matthew Stafford. You have your backup in Jimmy Garoppolo. So in terms of skill guys, I think they're pretty set. Tutu Atwell, I think, is a guy that honestly underrated least Sean McVay really likes.
He's a good.
But definitely, they're going to add to the receiver depth.
Yeah.
Probably going to happen late day 2 or probably early day 3. I still think it's going to be a good possibility. Absolutely. And going to the defense, Trevor, I also like your take about that. I think there's going to be a lot of good defensive players available, especially in that edge rushing position. I think it's a very deep group that we can see going round one. If those Mike Green falls, Shamar Stewart, one of those guys is really going to slide, and I'm interested to see who it will be. They can definitely take a lot of pieces there.
They got Jared Verse last year because of that. So
especially another piece I'm looking at is the cornerback room. Where's Jahadi Barron going to go? I think that's a guy that could really go very high, or he can drop a little bit. We saw cornerbacks in last year's draft. Guy like Quinyon Mitchell, I thought he for sure was going to go in the top 20. He ends up going all the way to the Eagles. Yeah. So I think a lot of different things can go or could happen in that cornerback room. Could the Rams maybe trade up for a guy like Will Johnson? I think that's a guy that we're also penciling in and looking at. Will Johnson could go in the top 10, or he can maybe go borderline top 20 as well.
The injuries just make the range hard to predict, I feel like.
Will Johnson's a hard baller, and he's going to be a great player in the next level. And I'm interested that's going to be a good thing. The cornerbacks, that's the big storyline I'm watching. Jahadi Barron, Will Johnson, how far are those guys sliding in a team like the Rams? If one of those two slide, I think they could easily trade up, or even if they're right there at their spot, I think they're just going to throw that card right in there and take one of those two guys. So secondary, edge rusher, or tight end are the 3 spots I'm really looking at with that first-round draft pick. And whichever ones you don't address day 1, go to day 2. I think there's going to be plenty of depth there as well. Offensive line is a great draft class to really rebuild an offensive line. So if they want to get a little younger at some positions, could also see that happen. Harrison, he's been there for a while. Maybe you look to draft a replacement. Sure. Different thing with the Rams. So I think an underrated storyline, Matthew Stafford's replacement. That's coming up. This could easily be Stafford's last season in L.A. Don't be surprised if the Rams throw a card in and take Jackson Dart round 1. I think that's a position that would be a wild card. I think they're trying to win a Super Bowl this year, which is why I think they're going to take Loveland or best player available on defense, like Trevor mentioned. Yeah. But quarterback could definitely be a position, either trade out of the first round or maybe just wait till day 2. If a guy like Quinn Ewers is there, you like him. Jalen Milroe there, you like him. Probably not a Sean McVay quarterback, in my opinion. But, that's going to be really interesting. Quarterback is a position that I'm really looking at the Rams addressing very early on in the draft.
Jackson Dart's going to be gone before they even get to pick. I think that's the way we're trending with this thing with Dart. So I
don't know. We'll see.
I think Pittsburgh's going to take him at 21. Is the way it's standing. So here's
pretty sure he's just Matt Corral.
Well, we'll see.
It's up in the air, though.
We can evaluate that later. Look, this LA Rams team, I think they need a little bit more credit than what we're giving them. And yes, we do give them a boatload of credit on this show, but not even from an offensive perspective, because that's where Sean McVay is really at his strength. I think the thing that he really needs just an overhaul and overstudying is how they rebuilt this defense, losing guys like Aaron Donald to retirement and Jalen Ramsey, who those guys you would consider, key cornerstones of the past decade, really, in football at their respective positions. Ramsey, for the longest time, was the best corner in football. Aaron Donald was the best pass rusher in football, and maybe one of the greatest defensive tackles of all time, maybe the greatest. the greatest. I mean, it's tough to compare him and some of the guys before, but he's definitely in that conversation. The Rams have rebuilt this defense again, and it appears guys like Jared Verse are just going to take the crown. So I think this is a real luxury play of a season for me. I think this is going to be a retool from the defensive side. I think they can find talent like really no one else. There's only a few, maybe a handful of GMs out there who can find talent like the Rams can. If they want to go and use their draft picks, they'll use the draft picks. If they want to trade the draft picks and find stars, they can go really any other way, in any which way you can think about it, and win games. And really, last year was just really the past 2 seasons have just been a huge legacy boost for guys like Les Snead and Sean McVay. I have the ultimate absolutely for Stafford as well. I have the ultimate confidence in this Rams team to figure it out. I think the positions that they're going to need to figure out. I think tight end. I definitely like the idea of them, being a player for a tight end. And look out for the Rams too. This is a team now that really is just in a luxury position. I could definitely see them, making some noise, maybe trading up if they really like someone in this draft. If Tyler Warren is this gem mint 10 prospect that everyone thinks he is, if I'm the Rams, I would be willing to move up in this draft. And that would be something that I don't think McVay is opposed to. He has all his picks now. It would make a lot of sense for them to move up and maybe capture a guy if they really like him in the top end of the draft. I think they should add a power back as well. I think Kyron Williams is a unique guy, but again, you could see it last year when the Rams used him because they didn't have really any other running backs in the roster. He would get pounded in the backfield for 1 to 2 yard gains. If they had an actual power back, I think that would boost the offense a lot, even more, which is crazy. And now you add Devontae Adams. You have a guy like Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua's top 5. Devontae Adams last year showed me that he can still be very productive in the NFL. He was elite last year when he had Aaron Rodgers in New York with the Jets. Even though he was on the Jets and they absolutely were god-awful and they sucked, Devontae Adams found a way to shine through the shade once he was healthy and found a way to connect with Aaron Rodgers. And I think Matthew Stafford is really an upgrade for a guy like Devontae Adams. So I am excited for this Rams team. There's no real reason why they shouldn't win the NFC West, in my opinion, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be a true Super Bowl contender this year. I'm dead serious about it. Stafford is too good. Puka Nacua is too good. The only thing that'll hold this team back is an injury to the quarterback position or an injury to one of their wide receivers like a Puka Nacua. That's about it. Outside of that, this team is in a great spot. Okay? All right, that's your Rams rebuild. That is pick 26. Pick 27 we will do Wednesday. Pick 28 will happen on Friday. We are really winding down on the road to rebuilding every team in the NFL somehow, some way. Okay. Top 5 running backs in this draft class. I wanted to do that today. We did quarterbacks on, Friday. Let's do running backs today. There's a lot of, really good running backs in this class. So I think our list could be a little bit different. I think at the top, we're going to be very similar. But I think as we get toward the bottom, there's going to be a lot of good running backs and a lot of good value for GMs to look at and a lot of good talent for, us to look at as well. I think our list could be very different. So I'm excited to hear what you guys think. So let's start it out. I'll turn over to Mr. Coca-Cola, Trevor Cox, to get us underway here. Top 5 running backs in this class. Start out with number 1.
I'm going to start it at number 1. I feel like this is probably going to be consensus. It's Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. The guy wins the Heisman in any other year where Travis Hunter isn't playing football. So he had a ridiculous year. I don't care. It was a small conference. The guy has some of the best contact balance I've ever seen, some great vision. He's elusive. He's fast. He does have home run speed, a little bit on tape if you watch it. So, the guy's going to be a great NFL player. There's not really much more you can say about him.
Yeah, Ashton Jeanty, I think that's probably going to be the mutual number 1 running back in this draft class. I think just his low balance, especially playing at the running back position, he just keeps his body nice and low. He breaks so many different tackles. If you want to put one helmet of the ball on him, you're not going to get him down whatsoever. And he also has home run speed. He's a complete package from a running back. An interesting aspect. We'll see how he is as a catching back. I'm interested to see how an NFL offense is going to use him in that aspect, just trying to get the ball in his hands out in open space. But Ashton Jeanty, he really just has everything you want and truly could be a generational running back in this draft class.
I'm worried about the situation for him, and it's Ashton Jeanty. He's got to get to the right situation. This guy's an absolute bowling ball of a running back. He can really do it all. He's a playmaker. He's got good footwork, explosiveness, balance, vision, everything you really want to see out of a top-tier running back. I think he has it. The only thing that would scare me is a bad situation, a crap offensive line, and he gets stuck into a mosh pit where he really shouldn't be. But I think that's not going to happen from where I've been seeing. If he goes to the Raiders, I think that'd be a good landing spot for him. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think his ceiling probably is 6. I don't think he goes higher than that, but I also think he could, go anywhere inside the top 10 after that. So
Yeah.
my running back 2, I'll get us started here, is Trevion Henderson out of Ohio State. The guy's just an absolute freak. Ran a 4.43, I believe. He's like a power back that is fast and can catch. The guy is pretty much the full package. I think he's going to be a great NFL player.
My next running back is going to be Omarion Hampton, running back out of UNC. Really love this kid. I think he's also a big-time home run hitter out of the backfield from North Carolina, 4.46, 40-yard dash. This kid, I think, also can do it all. I think that's going to be the second guy we're really going to be looking at where Hampton's going to go. I think a lot of people think mutually he's going to end up going in the first round as well. Probably only 2 running backs. Maybe Trevion Henderson could also sneak his way. Little sneak peek of who's my next running back will be. But I think Hampton, another guy who just has elite quickness. I think elite power as well, speed. I think it's just a big complete package as well for the Omarion Hampton. I think he really has so many different tools and really has a unique running back. If you're going to invest a first-round draft pick on a running back, you really have to check a lot of boxes. Probably if you have 20 boxes from a running back, he's got to check at least 18 or 19 if you want to take him in the first round. I think that's the type of guy Omarion Hampton can be. Just another dog, and probably would be the best running back class if we didn't have a generational running back in Ashton Genty in this draft class.
I'll probably go Omarion Hampton here. I think he's a very explosive running back, UNC guy. I think he can make a lot of plays for teams, and I think the top 20 there, like 20 down, I think there's a lot of teams that are going to, take a serious look. I think him on the Vikings would just be unfair if that were to happen. And you pair him with a guy like Aaron Jones, I think that would just be insane for J.J. McCarthy to have to work with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. I think that would just be unfair. I think Omarion Hampton's going to be good. It just has to get into the right situation. With all these running backs, I have to say it's all about situation, all about scheme, all about coordinator. But off a pure running back, he's probably my number 2 in this class.
Yeah, you guys said it all about Omarion Hampton. That's my running back 3. It's pretty tight between him and Henderson. I just like Henderson's receiving upside a little bit more, and I think he's a bit more of a home run hitter, a little faster to me on tape, but it's very close. I'm picking, really picking needles out of a haystack here. These are both great running backs.
Yeah, going Trevion Henderson 3. You mentioned it, Trevor. I think he was a true home run hitter at Ohio State. He obviously had to share a backfield. And really what stood out for me from Trevion Henderson, last year he could have declared to the draft and gone through the whole process and been in the NFL this past season. He elected to stay at Ohio State and even welcome a guy like Quishon Judkins, who was going to be competition for a lot of touches there. And, it really benefited Trevion Henderson and boosted his draft stock, in my opinion, because he was able to stay healthy. And I think that was a big problem at Ohio State early on. He kept 100%. Getting injured, but this year stays healthy. And the limited touches at times he got, he was a big-time hitter. When Ohio State needed a big-time run, Trevion Henderson was the one who really showed up for them, took the home run, hitters, had these 70, 80-yard touchdowns. Quishon Judkins was kind of the bowling ball in there that gets the tough yards. So they really were great for each other. And I think Trevion Henderson, just because of that home run speed, I think it's just a different type of running back he is as well. I think he's another guy that is very close to checking a lot of boxes, but it's just that home run speed he's got. I think it separates him a little bit from the guys I'm going to name a little later.
Yeah.
So this is my top 5. If you look at Daniel Jeremiah's list, Todd McShay, I really don't care. My number 3 is Cameron Scadaboo from the Arizona State Sun Devils, and it's not. If you've listened to me with regularity, I was picking against the Sun Devils usually almost all season. So if you say I'm a Sun Devil homer, you're wrong. The Cam Scadaboo, this guy's awesome. And if he's used properly, he's arguably one of the biggest wild cards in this draft. Like, if you get him and you put him in a good scheme, he could be an absolute steal. He's a bell cow. He's got a massive chip on his shoulder. He's funny. He does everything, and that's just off-field attributes. On the field, if you watch him against Texas at all, he literally carried a team. He was literally throwing up on a sideline and absolutely carrying his team when everybody knew he was going to get the football. He got the rock. He made plays. He was throwing touchdowns. He was running with like he was on fire. This guy is going to be a star in the NFL. I hope he goes to a great situation. That's my number one worry with all these guys. But it's just he's a tougher guy because he has an old school type of run style, and I think that's not what a lot of the NFL coaches really want to work with. They want to work with like these guys that are quick, pass catcher. Maybe not as big backs, but like a little tinier. I think that'll hurt him a bit. But I think if Scadaboo goes to the right spot, I think he's going to be an absolute superstar. I really do. He's got the great mentality. He does everything well. The only thing is, I just think he's a little old school runner, and I think that's might hurt him in this class.
I just want to touch it on Scadaboo real quick because I don't think he's going to end up making my top 5. I definitely agree with what you said. I just really worry about his durability in the NFL. I just don't know how long he's going to last. I really don't know if he's even going to make it to a second contract with how this guy just feeds and looks for contact is scary in the NFL because you're playing grown men. You're not just playing, kids like us anymore. So I think it's a whole nother level. But my running back 4 is Quinshon Judkins. You mentioned it, AJ. This guy is like a bowling ball. In between the tackles, he might be the second best runner in the class. The guy is just an absolute unit. There's not much more to say about him. He's got great vision. He's fast. Does he really have the home run speed like Henderson? No, but he's got the elusiveness. He's got the juke move. Everybody knows about the spin move in the football game. So he's an absolute dog, and I think he'll be a great NFL player.
Yeah, my running back 4 is going to be Cam Scatterboo, so I'm also on the hype train like AJ is. I do worry about his durability. You did mention it, Trevor. He took so many hits, but in the NFL that changes. Almost every single team does a running back by committee, and for some teams who have small running backs, also known as the Miami Dolphins with Devon Achane, they could not run between the tackles or get any tough yards last year. I think the Dolphins, if I'm them in the second round, I'm submitting a card for Cam Scatterboo. I think this is a guy that's going to come in there. You need those tough yards, 3rd and 1 situations, 4th and goal, 3rd and goal. Hand the ball over to this guy, and he's going to get you the end zone because if you want to bring, once again, 1 helmet or even 2 at times, he will break through them. He does not go down. He's going to drive you forward. This guy's an absolute bulldog, a fighter, and people want to talk about his speed. And we saw him hit plenty of home runs as well here at Arizona State.
Questions are dumb.
Absolutely. And I think Cam Scatterboo, it's all about the on-field speed. And when you see him, there's on-field speed there. With shoulder pads, that's what matters. Not when you're running a little combine, on tank tops. All right. Yeah. So this guy can absolutely break some runs if he needs to, but his specialty obviously is going to be getting those short yard situations. In my opinion, in the NFL, that is a crucial point that a lot of people forget. You want to stick on trying to get all these flashy guys that always hit the home run. No, you need these bulldogs. We're going to get those tough fighting yards. And that's how you keep moving the chains, you wear down defenses, and that's exactly what Cam Scatterboo is going to be. He's going to come into a situation. He's going to wear down a lot of defenses. Fourth quarter is going to come. Hand over the ball to him, and guys just don't want to tackle this guy. So, it's going to be a little bit of a poor man's Derrick Henry. Don't think he quite has the Derrick Henry potential, but I think he literally is set up to be a little poor man's Derrick Henry. Maybe David Montgomery is probably going to be my perfect draft comp for Cam Scatterboo. Pair him up with a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think it's going to work out great for him.
I like that comp. It's a good one. So my 4 is going to be Travion Henderson. I'm not going to get into the reasons. You guys already did. Great pass catcher, too. That's one of the things I like about him. There are plenty of teams in the NFL who have running backs that can run, just not necessarily, great pass catchers, and I think he's going to be a perfect complement to a guy you already have in your room. So I think he's going to be my number 4 for now.
All right, I'll get right into it. My number 5 is Devin Neal out of Kansas. Maybe a bit of a sleeper, but I've seen this guy play live in person. I think he was touted to go higher before Kansas had a bit of a disappointing year, and I think that overshadowed a lot of his production. We even saw it here at Arizona State. He put up an absolutely insane game. He went mental. He's great in the receiving game. He's got great vision. He's big, he's sizey, he's got good contact balance. He can run in between and outside the tackles. This is a guy that I feel like can do a little bit of everything. Is he absolutely phenomenal at one thing? No, but I feel like he does everything pretty well. So that's why he's my running back 5 out of Kansas.
My running back 5 is going to be Quinshon Judkins. I think this is a guy that is also a little bit of a bulldog. He just fights his way. We saw him in the national title game. Yeah. He was probably the best player in that Ohio State offense that game. I think it's a guy that, probably doesn't have the highest ceiling like we saw from these other running backs, especially in previous years. At Ole Miss, he was hyped up to be this great guy. He still is great, don't get me wrong. But I think there's definitely some guys that have jumped in this past season. I think Trayvon Henderson was a better running back than he was, but this is still a guy by no means. I think also put shoulder pads on, he's still going to break through some big-time runs as well. He's got some speed, running a 4.48 at the 40-yard dash, which really surprised a lot of us. Yeah. We expected him to run a little bit slower.
Maybe
once again,
4.5. So.
Yeah, and this guy's just going to fight for yardage straight up. Once again, if you want to bring one tackler, good luck, because he's going to drive you. He's going to fight. He's not even as big as these other guys like Cam Scatterboo, like I just mentioned, but he's just going to be a fighter. And I think that's all about mentality with Quinshon Judkins for me. I watch him play, and this guy just simply does not give up. And that's really what stands out to me in film.
All right, I'm going to leave Junkins off because you guys already put him on. I'm going to do my big sleeper and my ride or die this year at the running back position. UCF, this kid is going to be an absolute superstar. His name is R.J. Harvey. This guy runs like he's got fire up as you-know-what, man. I'm telling you. This guy is just, he's quick, he's elusive, and he's a mean runner. I like mean runners. If you can't tell through my top 4, I am a fan of the guys that you don't want to tackle when it comes down to the fourth quarter. I'm a fan of the guys who can be bowling balls. I think R.J. Harvey, this guy is going to be a star. Unfortunately, he was at UCF, so not a lot of people were able to watch him like, your Judkins or your Henderson, who were national champions. I think he has all the tools and all the potential to be a really good running back in this league. Honorable mention, though, is Quinshon Judkins, obviously, and I think the kid from Tennessee. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name right now. Yes, Dylan Sampson.
Kim Scottaboo was my first honorable mention. I'll say that.
So I think those guys are also very good. But I think either way, any way you look at it this year with the running back class, I think there's so much depth in this class, and there's so many opportunities for teams to find running backs. Names that I didn't even mention, like Etienne, Trevor Etienne is, probably in my running back like 9 or 10. So I think there's a lot of different ways that teams can go this year, even though we didn't mention some other names.
The options are plentiful. Even Ollie Gordon is still in this draft class. That was the guy who was getting first-round hype before he had a disappointing year.
Trust me, an NFL team that takes Ollie Gordon day 3, I think that's going to be working out just fine with a guy like him.
Agreed.
Caleb Johnson, we didn't mention him out of Iowa. I mean, a guy that's running 1,500 yards in an offense that simply does not throw the football. Everybody's stacking the box and, say us, yeah, please throw the ball. Beat us through the air. Still getting 1,500 yards as a running back at Iowa, I think is very impressive. So Caleb Johnson, another guy that I'm really watching how early he will go.
That was going to be one of the other mentions. But, yeah, he is going to – I think there's a lot of different ways teams can go with this running back class this year. So interesting stuff there. Any other thoughts on running backs? Jaden Blue's another guy. Like, he fell off big, but he can be maybe a late day 3 guy that could be impactful somehow.
I could see it. He's really good in the receiving game. So, yeah, I think he could be a good third down back in the league.
While we're talking about running backs, let's dig in a little bit of a drama that's going on in New York. Aaron Glenn comes out and kind of says, we want to do a running back by committee out there in New York. And, all of a sudden there's been a lot of rumblings of Breece Hall being on the trade market and being a potential guy that just gets shipped out on draft night. So that could be interesting, especially a lot of rumors saying the Jets really like Ashton Jeanty. If he's available there, they'll trade Breece Hall and take Jeanty. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Is it a good move to take Ashton Jeanty and get rid of Breece Hall, or would you invest that pick somewhere else and keep Breece Hall?
It just feels rich when they have needs at other positions. I feel like the offensive line's just in too bad of a spot for you to take a running back at pick 7. But I don't hate the idea of trading Breece Hall on draft night overall. I don't think you should do that while simultaneously drafting Jeanty. I think you can find a running back deeper in this class. We just talked about how deep this class is.
Well, that'd be one way for Aaron Glenn to be a one and done as an NFL head coach if he were to do that. If they were to go out, trade Breece Hall and then pick Ashton Jeanty at 7.
I hate the idea of that, man. He's been injury prone.
Who, Breece Hall? I like the idea of trading Breece Hall. I'm not a Breece Hall guy at all, but I just don't think the Jets make sense for me to take Ashton Jeanty. I don't think they're the team.
100%.
If I'm the Jets, I am hoping and clamoring that one of those offensive linemen fall, and I can pair one of those guys.
Falls to me.
Yeah, Membu or somebody like that, and I can pair him with Fashanu. I can get Elijah Vera Tucker. Like, you can get a really good offensive line.
Joe Tippmann is pretty solid.
And I think that's what Aaron Glenn wants to build. I would consider trading Breece Hall. Yeah. Look, I think there's a total misconception about the running back position. Look, you have to be in a great position to take a running back. Most of the times, more than not. I think there's been a few exceptions in recent years. I mean, I think Bijan Robinson may be an exception. I just think he's a very, very special running back. And maybe Ashton Jeanty is too. I just go with what the odds tell me. I would trade, if I'm the Jets, and I got really good value for Breece Hall, and I got a nice pick in this year's draft that I can use to rebuild my team this year. I am going out. I'm trading Breece Hall. I'm reinvesting in the places I really need to invest it in, and that's my defense. That's my offensive line, and we're going from there. If we want to play bully ball like I think Aaron Glenn wants to, then we are investing in bully ball. I think they can do without Breece Hall. I think Braylon Allen's fine for a year, and I think they could draft somebody in this draft because there are so many names and so many different pieces. There's a lot of bowling balls too. Like if they went out, honestly, so Braylon Allen, does he profile more as the pass catching back or like the big physical back?
He's kind of a combination, I think, all around, but I would definitely say more of a power back.
More power, yeah.
Okay, so you go out and you get me a receiving back to pair with him. I don't mind the idea, and they have Davis already there, if I'm not mistaken. That's his name, Isaiah Davis, and he was pretty good. So I don't mind it. I think running backs are it's an overrated position because there's so many. But again, if you get a top elite running back though, that's a different story. Like Saquon, McCaffrey, those types of backs. That's a different story in my opinion, though.
I think if Hall's on the market, I think my Denver Broncos should be looking to trade for him as well.
Yeah, I imagine for Breece Hall, especially the year he's coming off of, it's probably going to be an early day 3 pick.
Exactly.
That I think would be expected.
I think it'd be buying low.
Which I think a lot of teams should definitely buy that because I think Breece Hall, if you really put him in a good situation and put a good line in front of him, he's got top 5 running back potential. 100%. I think he's got a lot of breakaway speed. He can also catch the ball out of the backfield. We see plenty of that talent flash with the Jets. I think the Jets were just a miserable offensive unit, which I think really impacted the morale of a lot of guys. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, which I think impacted their play. play on the field. Brees Hall was also playing banged up down the stretch. I think also impacted, how many touches he got later on in the year. But I think Brees Hall is a very talented running back. Do I think he's better than Gentry as of right now? No. But, you're picking at 7, and there's a reason why you're picking at 7, and it's not because your running back Brees Hall led you to pick the 7, all right? There's many different holes, especially after losing Morgan Moses, Tyron Smith, didn't work out over there. He's gone. So you probably need to pick a tackle there. And kind of like AJ mentioned earlier with Bijan Robinson, at least the Falcons had a foundation up front for him and a good offensive line. Do the Raiders really have that to take Ashton Jeanty? That's a question mark. They got a couple decent pieces on that line, but I don't know if it's as complete for them to still invest at the running back position at 6. So I'm still a little concerned if the Raiders do end up going Jeanty. I think there's a lot of different spots they could go to and really improve their football team a lot more drastically.
I just think it makes more sense for the Raiders to do it as opposed to the Jets.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Because they have no running backs there
right,
whatsoever.
They don't have a running. Well, I mean, they have Sincere McCormick, but he's at max a 2.
Exactly.
At max. That's about it. So we'll see. All right, that's the NFL running back market there. Anything else that happened in the NFL? I don't think there's that many headlines. So
nothing that's really worth it. We already spoke on Tyreek Hill. Yeah. Those rumors are still rumbling around. We already gave our thoughts on that. Draft line just approaches, so look out for our next mock draft.
Yeah. Watch out for the Carolina Panthers too for a receiver. I think they could use another receiver there.
I can see them going 10-8.
I could see that. Ted McMillan over there with that offense. And they took Leggett last year, which was supposed to be a big physical guy. But maybe did they shock us, take Luther Burton first? That could also be a spot there. But I think they invested in a first-round receiver last year. I think they're going to try to do some defensive work. So,
that's
but
fair.
Definitely don't put her to sleep, though.
Edge rusher too.
I think edge is the big,
in the first round.
Big gaping hole in that team, for sure.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. All right. Other news, sports. You guys go ahead. You lead the way. I've got stuff to say on Ovechkin and the Masters today. I think that's about it for me.
All right. I'll just dive right into the Ovechkin news. Absolutely phenomenal. He broke Gretzky's game, and I believe it was the exact same amount of games as Gretzky had played. He had one more goal. Poetic. The goal, the whole reaction, the whole ceremony. It was kind of like LeBron and Kareem's whole ceremony, except Gretzky looked a little less salty than Kareem did. But I think it was definitely a great moment for the sport of hockey. And it's great when this stuff happens in hockey because it gets more eyes on the sport. I think especially right now, leading up to the playoff time, I don't think this could have come at a better time for the NHL.
Sorry, I had something in my throat there. Yeah, I think Alex Ovechkin, I thought they did a good job with the ceremony overall. Thought it was a nice touch putting Gretzky out there, getting Gary Bettman there, the Capital team being so supportive of the record. Thought that was a great idea. I just thought the whole idea of putting that game and mid-afternoon for the East Coast, morning for the West Coast, I think they blew again, a gigantic opportunity. And the coverage has been nowhere near what it should be for a record like this. It is such a huge record in the NHL. If you are able to pass the great one, and I mean the great one, in Wayne Gretzky in anything, let alone goals, I think it should have gotten way more attention from a publicity standpoint. If they were going to do this, there should have been a 3 o'clock Eastern start time, puck drop for this, because it's ridiculous that people in the West Coast have to wake up at 9:30 a.m. to watch a record being broken, and people actually missed it because they were in bed. They were sleeping when the record was broken. So I think that was brutal. Time points from the NHL and TNT. They really blew an opportunity. That game, if they don't do flexing in the NHL, like that doesn't happen. But if there were one time to do it, I think that would have been the extreme case to do it because that would have been a huge day for the NHL. It still was, and Ovechkin rightfully deserves that day. I think he's the greatest goal scorer of all time, but, did anyone think in Gretzky's day that the record would ever be broken? No, probably not. Right? I say this, records are meant to be broken. So I think someone will eventually one day pass him. It's just going to take a long time. Maybe I'll see it again in my lifetime. Maybe I will. But I would say probably there's no one out there right now that's really going to make a run. I mean, Austin Matthews is going to need a miracle work for the second half. He just has to be built different. And the thing with Ovechkin, too, is he's having a career year, or not a career year, but a fantastic year from his standards. He's 39 years old. He's playing on a broken leg, and he scored 42 times this year. I think that's ridiculous. It's insane. I think it's one of the most impressive records in all of sports, honestly, especially the way he's doing it this year, 39. No one even expected him to come close. Go back last year.
2 years.
It was going to take 2 to 3 years for him to do this, and he did it in 1 year on a broken leg. I think that's insane. It's an insane feat. He's the greatest goal scorer of all time. A lot of people tell me he's the greatest player of all time. No. Well, don't do that. He's the greatest goal scorer of all time. Yes.
Well, the NHL once again did mess it up because once again the network they're paying money to talk about the NHL or really broadcast, also known as ESPN, this morning, instead of just talking about hockey and giving props to Ovechkin, they start comparing him to LeBron James and start
That's not
arguments
good.
about that.
No.
So, I mean, it's once again the NHL messing up. Instead of paying a network that will actually give you proper coverage and talk about the sport and give the props that it needs or all the statistics and compare their hockey players to actual hockey players, they instead switch it on over and proceed to talk about LeBron James. So it's just ridiculous. First take, horrible show. If you want to tune in to get a good laugh, go ahead and do it. But I guarantee you'll get better takes and more seriousness from literally 3 for 60 right here.
Well, that's a good clout for us. I think Ovechkin's is more impressive than LeBron James, personally. But I don't know. I could be wrong. But then the timing, too, I think the timing's ridiculous. He did it in the same amount of time as Gretzky. That's unparalleled. So
That is. It's just, it feels almost meant to be or something.
yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Impressive.
So props to Alex Ovechkin. My favorite player growing up was Ovechkin, but just some people are just getting really crazy about it. Greatest player of all time. Settle.
Relax.
Calma. He's not Gretzky. Calma.
He's not Nathan McKinnon.
Again, let's put this in perspective, okay? If Gretzky never scored a goal in his life, he would still be the all-time points leader in the NHL. If he never scored a goal, if he never put a puck in the actual net, he would still be
assists he has.
This is exactly my point. So let's just calm down. Great player, fantastic, and I wish I had him. Of course, I'm not going to act like he's a scrub. He's a top 10 player of all time, borderline top 5. So props to him. All right, that's Ovechkin stuff. Let's think. Champions League this week. We're starting it up with the round 1, the first legs. Go ahead, Seb.
Yeah, obviously we have Real Madrid, Arsenal. I guess I'll dig into that matchup right away. I do think Real Madrid has the upper hand because I think Arsenal overall are going to have to score so much or have so much firepower to really keep up with a team like Madrid, especially this season. Madrid obviously coming off a loss this weekend in Valencia. Champions League's their competition. Barcelona want to go ahead and win La Liga. I think full focus for Madrid right now, especially with Mbappe, who he's won plenty of league titles back in PSG. He wants to win the Champions League. Madrid wants to win the Champions League. It's what they do every single year. So I think they should be able to just really breeze past Arsenal. I just don't think Arsenal have the firepower. Madrid may be able to even put it away in the first leg here at the Emirates tomorrow. Bayern Inter, I think I'm really looking forward to that one. Two great teams from, countries that, their league is questionable at times with the depth it has. But I think Inter's a really good team. They've done a great job to get to this point. Bayern, it's going to be a really true battle. I'm really excited for this fixture. I think it can be really tight throughout. Bayern definitely did a much better job last round, getting through a lot easier against Leverkusen than they did in the very first round against Celtic. So there may be getting some momentum with company there as their manager. And I think Inter are just a complete squad with Lautaro Martinez. That dude, all he does is score. So a lot of firepower expected in that fixture. Barcelona Dortmund, we obviously saw news Dortmund lost one of their best midfielders this morning due to an injury. So I do think Barcelona should be able to handle Dortmund. Once again, I just don't think Dortmund have the depth to really compete with a team like Barcelona, especially Barcelona. They've been really locked in this season. I did predict an El Clasico final, and I do think at least both teams should be able to fairly easily get to the semifinal. Barcelona and Real Madrid easily, you could argue, are the two best clubs in the world at the moment. And then PSG Villa, the English clubs, I'm not a big fan of the English clubs this year. I really am not. Villa, they've done an iffy job in the Premier League, solid job in the Champions League. They did a great job starting off in the Champions League, in my opinion, which is why they're in this spot. They got to play a little bit of a weaker sides to get to this point. But I just do believe PSG. I mean, we saw them previously in the Champions League. They just knocked out Liverpool, who are really by far the best team in England, in my opinion, right now. Dembele could easily be on path to be a Ballon d'Or contender this season.
He is, in my opinion, by the way.
In my opinion, he is as well. So right now, PSG are so locked in. I enjoy watching them. Their pleasure. But Donnarumma goal is still so tough to catch or even score goals on them. So I do think PSG should also be able to breeze past Villa. I don't think we're going to see quite the excitement or the drama outside of maybe the Bayern Inter fixture. But the semifinals coming up, those fixtures potentially could excite me a lot.
I think that this should be an El Clasico final. I would just say watch out for Bayern. Watch out. Always watch out for Bayern Munich. I think Paris Saint-Germain are in a great position as well. I think they're playing with nothing to lose at this point in the competition because their team is so young. So we'll see. But
they won the league in France as well.
Yeah, and they've already won the what is it, League One?
League One.
Yeah. So again, they're playing on house money, which I like in the Champions League. But this should be a Real Madrid Barcelona final, and Real Madrid should win the Champions League. There should be no excuses for Madrid to lose to Barcelona in the Champions League final. It would be inexcusable if Madrid lost. Inexcusable. So that would be my thought there. Anything else that's pressing on the mind today?
We could talk a little Masters or something.
Hell yeah, brother. We
Wednesday.
could talk about the Masters today, man. I am so excited. Here's why. Golf, really, in my opinion, it's not the same as it was 10 years ago. Not the same when Tiger Woods is there. And by the way, Tiger will not be here at the Masters this year. If you're a first-time golf fan, all good. We got you covered here on 3 for 60. He will not be there for the Masters. There is a lot of opportunity this year from a betting perspective for this Masters tournament. If you believe Scotty Scheffler is the best golfer here, which is all good, go ahead and make that play for him. I mean, he is the betting favorite. Him and Rory McIlroy are. So, I mean, we'll see with those two. I don't really think it's going to be one of those two as much as I want to say it will. The guy I'm watching really in this tournament and really overall is Bryson DeChambeau. I think he can absolutely be a catalyst for the Masters this year with the way he swings and how much power he puts in. But my guy this year for the Masters, plus 1,600 right now on CBS Sportsline, Colin Morikawa. This guy is just a great golfer, very consistent, gets it on the green almost all the time, great putter. I mean, he's just terrific. So I think Morikawa should be in a good spot. But obviously, if you say Scotty Scheffler is going to win it, I mean, you have the right to do that. Defending champion, he looks to be in great sync, especially after last year, gets arrested right in the middle of his Masters and sure enough finds a way to win it. That was crazy last year. So a little less distraction, maybe more time to even focus in even more, which would be crazy. But yeah. I am excited for this Masters. It's officially the best week of the year. I will be downstairs in the lounge with a polo shirt, khakis, and golf clubs out watching the Masters. It's my favorite, really one of my favorite weeks of the year. And I'm very excited for it. As you can see with the Callaway hat, I'm already locked in and ready to go for this year's Masters. Great betting opportunities. I wish I could be in Augusta for the tournament. Unfortunately, in Phoenix here, suffering away at Gordon Commons. But I'm excited for the Masters. They can't take that away from me. Masters, great time of year. Jim Nantz on the call. Doesn't get much better than that for me, especially as an avid golf fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you 2 picks here for the Masters. I think. Sorry, I got something in my throat there. I think Scotty Scheffler is going to be the winner this year. I mean, he's just the best golfer in the world to me at this point. Whenever I watch him play, it just seems like he's always hitting the right shots. I guess a bit of a dark horse, but I mean, this guy won it 2 years ago. John Rahm plus 1,400. That feels like great value. Yep. Forks up. I mean, I think he could still win it. I don't know why he's plus 1,400, third odds. I get it that there's the two, big
Scheffler's so good.
But
yeah,
Scheffler's just unbelievable.
Rory's just consistent.
I'd say if I had to pick a winner, it'd be Scheffler, but I think Rahm could do it as well.
I think it's now or never for Rory McIlroy too. I don't know how much longer it's going to take for this guy.
I just have to see it, man.
You have to. I totally agree with that evaluation. You have to see it with a guy like Rory.
I just can't pick him until I see it.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, outside of like this, I mean, my favorite event that's low key that no one really talks about is the Kentucky Derby, Belmont Stakes, Kentucky Derby.
We'll have coverage.
I actually cannot wait for that too in May. It's the best, 3 to 5 minutes there in sports. So
nice.
Can't wait for that. So that's all I got on the Masters side. I think I hit on everything I wanted to today. MLB, nothing crazy there.
Rocky scored 12 runs yesterday.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah, there it is, honestly. Hey, Giants, maybe we'll give them some love, honestly. They're up there in the NL West, hot start, probably the most surprising team so far, battling it up there with the Dodgers and the Padres.
Just swept the Mariners, right?
Just swept the Mariners this past weekend to start 3-0 at home this season. So, hey, maybe the NL West can be a little bit of a dogfight. Last time someone other than the Dodgers won that division, it was the Giants back in 2021, I'm pretty sure, where they won like around 109 games. So
and then they went out quick. So we'll see. Yeah. About that. I think the Braves, the real time for panic is going to come soon if they can't win with Acuna and Strider back. I didn't say that when we were talking about the Braves in our previous podcast. So, Braves, if they get Strider and Acuna back, I will hit the panic button on the Atlanta Braves. But until then, I think they're going to be okay.
Too talented.
I say that like 60% confident. They're going to be okay. Just
people forget that we still have about 6 more months really left to play.
Yeah, right. So here's what's going to happen with baseball. Okay, I'll just educate the viewer, and I'm sure they already know this too. So they'll pay attention for this week, and then when the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs come around, baseball is done till about June 17th, right around there. That's when the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup are over, and then fans will start to pick it up. But don't worry, I watch every baseball game. Don't worry, we got you covered, and these guys do too. So not to worry here on this show. We are experts, so we got you covered. All right, boys, let's wrap this thing up today.
From Trevor Cox,
Sebastian Fryer,
I'm AJ God's all saying so long. We'll see you Wednesday right here on 3 for 60.